So the next topic we need to address regarding isotopes is given a sample of an element, how are the different isotopes distributed in the sample? And in order to do that, we need to just review the concept of a fraction expressed in percentage. So when somebody says that something is 3%, what does that actually mean? Well, the term percent means parts per hundred, so that if you have 100 equal parts, like in this table, there are 100 spaces, how much of the space is occupied? In this case, I've got 1, 2, 3 out of 100 spaces are occupied. That is a 3% occupation. Okay, 3 parts are occupied out of a total of 100 possible parts. So it's 3 parts per 100 is occupied. It's 3%. Now, you can calculate the percentage through a general formula, even if you don't have 100 equal parts to begin with. The way this is done is the following. The percent of spaces occupied, let's say by X, is equal to a fraction. It's always defined this way. The number of spaces that are being represented as being occupied divided by the total number of possible spaces. This fraction will always be less than or equal to 1. At most, it would be equal to 1, okay? And no bigger than that. Then when we multiply by 100, we are going to convert to percentage. If everything were occupied, we'd end up with 100%. Now what we have here is 3, number of occupied spaces, divided by 100, which would give us the fraction 3 divided by 100, which is in decimal representation is 0.03. When we multiply by 100, we get 3%. So this fraction is not in 100 equal spaces, okay? When we multiply by 100%, we're converting this fraction to, if you had 100 equal parts, how much are occupied? Okay, that's pretty much the concept. Now, let's show you something else. There are many ways to get 3%. You don't have to have 100 equal spaces at the beginning. What if I had 45 total possible spaces and the number of occupied spaces was a fractional amount itself? 1 space is occupied and say a little over a third was occupied as well. When you take this fraction, 1.35, and divide by 45, then multiply by 100 to convert it to parts per 100, you get 3%. So there are really many different ways of representing a fraction of something and converting it to a percentage as 3%. Yeah, 1.35 over 45 would generate this decimal 0.03, which is the same thing as 3 parts per 100.